the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. I still got to get used to myself with this new backdrop and setting because it's like I feel off. But no, I feel great. Like another good Thursday night schlock fest. I got a little more interesting in the second half for good and bad
It
reasons.
did.
But
Thank God
good.
it got a little more interesting in the second half. I was worried after watching that first half, which we can dig into. I think kind of bigger...
Trade.
I mean, you're watching that game, and the Ravens offense is just like, what is happening right now? Mark Andrews goes out. Rashad Bateman goes out at a certain point. Some of the stuff they're doing, we're going to talk about it, talk about some couple individual plays as we go over this game. And the Bucs, after that first drive, they stagnate. So it's like, man, these teams are just really frustrating. And then the Ravens break out of it. The second half, watching that offense, I'm sitting there thinking the whole time, like, this is what I want. This is what I want them to be. And I think there are aspects about tonight that allowed them to kind of be the best version of themselves that we can talk about. But when you come out of this game, my thought is, man, the Ravens can really build on some of this. They're already a top 10 defense. Mike McDonald's in his first year. They're trying a lot of weird shit. Are they starting to settle in and find themselves a little bit? The offense, I thought the offensive line played great tonight. Some of the things that they were doing, obviously, we feel good about Lamar, even though pass catching options are suspect at best outside of Isaiah Likely at this point. But I still am sitting there looking at the Ravens like, all right, in that second tier of AFC teams, they should be there. Like, they absolutely should be. What we thought coming into the season and some of those flashes they've shown before they give up all these fourth quarter leads, like the Ravens are one of those teams that has this sort of ceiling to them. And the Bucs, I don't know. That's kind of my thought as I sit here 5 minutes after this game ended.
No, that's my feeling too. The second half Ravens is what I pictured of the 2022 Ravens.
Yes.
It was the run game made sense to me as far as, and again, we're going to break it down a little bit in depth in a second, but as far as how they're hitting it, what they're leaning into as far as the run game wise, but then also on defense, it made sense. I could see them just playing faster and understanding what they're doing. That's the problem sometimes. And I could tell this Ravens defense is figuring out, what is our bread and butter each week? What are we leaning on? Like by doing so much, sometimes you don't, what's the line, master of all trades, master of none, or jack of all trades, master of none.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. That's kind of Z's and sorry of defenses. Like that's what it really did feel like. But I could see this Ravens defense start to play faster. That's the thing. When they understand what they're getting, the one play that sticks out to me with this Ravens defense, and it might have came in the first half though, but they played a pretty good game throughout after the first couple drives, was the Bucs threw hot real quick, and they threw hot to Chris Godwin on third down, and the safety drove on it and knocked it out of Godwin's hands. And I was like, oh, they're recognizing stuff. Like they're recognizing, oh, that's what we're blitzing, so this guy might throw short, They realized the domino effect of the plays, and that was like, okay, good. Now you can have as much talent as you want. If they're not playing fast, you won't get the most of their abilities. And this felt like the first time, especially the last 2.5 quarters, especially the second half, though, was the Ravens were playing fast. And it was really cool, especially after they had injuries to some of their really good players.
So I want to talk about the frustrating start of this game for Baltimore. There were a couple of bad moments. I mean, there was a sack on a RPO where Lamar didn't throw the quick RPO, so he just was looking for a second receiver and ended up taking a sack. And then the other play that was just pulling my hair out was the intentional grounding that Lamar took in the first half. So we can look at this play. And this is, to me, encapsulates the issue with what the Ravens were dealing with on offense to start this game. You can't see the receiver on the left side of the formation here because he never comes into your picture. He's literally just hugging the sideline, walking up the sideline, essentially. So you're looking at this play. And my question as you look at this is, who's supposed to be in conflict here?
Right.
Like, which defensive player are you supposed to be putting in conflict as they sit back here in zone? So Lamar's dropping back here, and there's nowhere for him to go with the ball because this is not anything you would do against zone coverage. Like they're playing on the left side. What are you doing to affect that guy who's hugging the left sideline? Absolutely nothing. So that's the problem, is they're coming out and they're doing nothing to beat zone defense in the first half. And the Bucs are playing a ton of zone. So teams that were playing it. The Ravens are facing the highest man coverage rate in the NFL coming into this game. And I think that affected the way that they started to try to go into some of these games where it's like, all right, we're just going to see a bunch of man. Let's have a bunch of man beaters. And then they got absolutely way less man than they probably anticipated and not a lot at all. And then so in the second half, they transition away from some of that game plan. And like, all right, if they're not going to play man coverage against us, we're going to run the ball because we ran the ball 7 times. They ran the ball 7 times in the first half for 27 yards. In the second half, they ran the ball 26 times for 204 yards.
A little bit of a difference.
A little bit of a difference. So that part of it and leaning into the run game and all of the RPOs, that's what I want to see. And we're going to get to that in a second. But you wanted to talk about a play that you think kind of shows off the good and the bad of Greg Roman.
Yes, this is Greg Roman. Sometimes having the right ideas, but then getting a little too galaxy brain. I think that's the best way to put it. Greg Roman goes galaxy brain a lot. And this was the Vita Vea sack, which is already notable enough. Vita Vea doesn't get a lot of sacks. He is a bull rushing guy.
Bad moment for Tyler Linderbaum, who had a really nice game.
He did. He had a great game, especially once, and this ties into what they do in the second half, and this is knowing personnel. But the Ravens and Greg Roman had a great idea, and this is what actually the Chiefs did when they played the Bucs. Was we are going to go into heavy personnel. The Chiefs went 13 personnel. The Ravens here are going with a lot of tight ends and a lot of fullbacks here, or Patrick Ricard. I believe they're in 22 personnel here. So 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. But the problem is what they're trying to do is get Vita Vea on the field. Vita Vea is not a good pass rusher. We are trying to get him on the field. We're trying to get this heavy run defense look, this base defense look, and we're going to attack him with a pass play. But what we did with this is good. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. I support that idea, especially on 2nd and 10. But then if you see here, the Ravens do is they go for the 4 verticals play. So you got Patrick Ricard, 305 pounds. The Rhino is running a vertical route. He's not running. They're all running 4 verts. So, okay, again, this is a classic whiteboard to actual on the field difference. That looks great. We're going to give them base personnel. They're going to run a basic defense, and we're going to run 4 verts, and you're going to hit a seam shot to the tight end right here. But when you have a 300-pound tight end who's supposed to have stretch the defense and create that space for the throw, it doesn't work. And so that is the conundrum of Greg Roman. It's a lot of good ideas, a million ideas, apparently, because that's what his offense seems like. But the execution and actually knowing what the matchups are sometimes aren't very well executed. And I think that's what happened between the first half of this game and then the second half of this game. Was the first half was trying to do all these ideas, and the second half realizing, oh, let's just spread them out and run horizontally.
Just do what we do. Let's just do what we do. And that's when you watch them in the second half. And I'm seeing this version of the Ravens offense in the second half. It's like, just do this all the time. Just do this all the time. And I do know.
He's the anti-opening script guy. Like, it's like, don't do your opening script. Just adjust.
What this is not always going to work against teams that are going to be willing to play a little bit more man against you. Right. So the Bucs have a lot of cornerback injuries coming into this game. They clearly weren't comfortable playing a lot of man coverage, even with Bateman and Andrews both going out at some point. So they're playing a lot of zone. And I think one of the reasons that teams probably play a lot of man coverage against the Ravens, on top of the fact that they don't respect the receiving options, is man coverage is a good solution for RPO heavy teams. Right. So I would say the Dolphins get a ton of man coverage last year. So if they're not going to play any man coverage against you, RPO the shit out of them the entire half. It's runs with motion, RPOs, or movement throws. That was the entire second half game plan from the Ravens, and that is the most beautiful version of this Ravens offense. So the one play that I thought was gorgeous, you tweeted about it, the pass to Isaiah Likely on the option where they ended up throwing it to him. So that is
1996 Nebraska. Like that.
So just another example here of getting your quarterback on the move, having a way to influence linebackers, a way to create movement, and then you're getting him to throw while on the move to an open space because you're influencing the linebackers. They're doing that with every single time they threw the ball. I think Lamar Jackson is underrated pocket passer, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. But on 1st and 2nd down, why would you ever drop back to throw when you have this guy able to do this kind of stuff and this type of offense? That's an exaggeration, but you should live this way. You should live in play action and RPOs and motion. And I want to see Lamar play on the Eagles. That's what I want to see. And that the second half, that's what it felt like. the touchdown, the throw to Likely, the little boot play, action play, touchdown to Kenyon Drake. Another example of that. It's just like, get him on the move, give him some easy buttons. Let's just live that way, because it's absolutely beautiful when they're doing that kind of stuff. And if a team's going to play a ton of zone like the Bucs were, just spam that shit until it's over.
And you're just tying in what you do. Like having this play action stuff with all the motion stuff, the motion stuff already puts that makes defenses go, okay, we got to sort this out perfectly. And then you add the play action. There's so many times the Ravens, it's obvious they're passing, because all of a sudden they just get into this spread out formation.
Static.
And it's weird. We talk about silos with the Bengals offense. That's what the Ravens offense can be like. And that sprint out play, the fake lead sprint out into the boundary, it was awesome. Or fake lead option, I should say, into a sprint out was awesome, because it had the consternation or the pre-snap motion of everything, and then the post-snap movement. And so the defenders have to be honest with it. They're like, this looks like an option play. We gotta fit this up. Patrick Ricard's about to blow me up. Oh, I gotta play a Lamar on the pitch, otherwise he's gonna take it 20 yards. And then you just get a nice easy button and hit it right over the top. That is the good of Greg Roman with this. The bad is when he gets into heavy personnel and runs a stick route to Patrick Ricard. That is, oh my God. That meme, someone tweeted it. Someone, if you want to look at my timeline, it's hilarious. Who is this random account that tweeted? It was so funny, but it was perfect. It's exactly what it was. It was a Drewski meme. But anyways, that is where the second half felt like the Ravens offense, where they're spreading horizontally to punch you in the mouth. And of course, that's where Gus Bus had a couple great runs up the middle, because they're stretching you horizontally. And it's all those jet motions. That's what it should be. That's and the touchdown on what was it? The last touchdown that they had, it was a perfect play. It was the 3rd and 1. Oh, to Duvernay. The touchdown to Duvernay, it was perfect. 3rd and 1. They went into a 12 personnel. So it was Likely, Ricard, 2 receivers, running back. And in that look, so the Bucs went, okay, we're going to match with base. And they were in a bare front. Vita Vea right over the nose. Blah, 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 blah. You do not. Tyler Linderbaum had an awesome game. You do not want Tyler Linderbaum blocking Vita Vea one-on-one.
290. Yeah.
The 290 against 340 and athletic. You do not want that. So let's do horizontal runs. Let's get them moving. And that run, with that touchdown run of Duvernay or toss, jet sweep, whatever you want to call it, was perfect, because they got to a heavy front that's tight. A bare front is tight. You only have the one unblocked guy. And then, honestly, other than that, it becomes just basically a flat route. And so if you get guys, if it's 3rd 1, that's an easy gain to get 1 yard on top of you can get a touchdown like they did if one guy messes up on their gap. But that makes sense for what this offense does. It's spreading horizontally to punch you up the middle, if it's Lamar or Gus Bus going up the middle. But that's where I think too many times Greg Roman will be like, well, they're on to us, so we got to do this, and that. We're on. No.
Stop.
You have Lamar. You have Lamar.
I want the cat water bottle with Greg Roman in some of those moments. It's like, no. Every single time Lamar is on the field, you have an advantage in the run game.
Yes.
Every single time. It's not any more complicated than that. So
those matchups, and Lamar is a queen on the chessboard
every time, every single time. But that doesn't, one of the reasons that I loved the Duvernay touchdown is that is a counter to the plays that you've been running the entire half. All you have to do is give it to him every once in a while, and then everything you're doing with all that bells and whistles and bullshit becomes legitimate. There's reality to the threat, and that's not
gimmicky. Yes. It's not a gimmick. It's what you do. Yes, that's exactly right. No, I'm not trying to put Lamar in this bucket, because he has really grown as a pocket passer and do a lot of stuff. And I wanted to point out one play where it's 3rd down, and all right, he's got to be able to operate and do this kind of stuff. And it was beautiful, right? They motion Drake out to the left. They run slant flats at the bottom of the screen. Bucs are playing man coverage on 3rd down. Lamar looks to his left. Doesn't like the slant because it's not there. It's like, okay, sounds good. Great. Makes sense. Very quickly gets his head around, finds Likely over the ball, rifles it, 1st down. He can do this stuff. If you give this to him in 3rd down, he absolutely can operate with this kind of stuff. But this shouldn't be the basis of their offense. Even this play is more dynamic than a lot of their other normal drop back concepts because of the stuff that they're doing with Drake. And so those plays where it's like, all right, it's 3rd and 5. Let's give him go left, go right. He's a quick operator. He can do that kind of stuff. It's not like he can't do it, but the basis and the bones of the offense should be the stuff that we saw in the second half. And again,
Maybe a little bit harder against a lot of teams that are going to play a bunch of man coverage against you when you can't spam those RPOs the entire half. But for moments like this is the version of the Ravens that you want to see.
That's absolutely right. And that's the thing with Lamar. And not only just the numbers are showing this, but just you watch him play is that, yes, he is trying to attack from the pocket. Even when he does the bounce around stuff, he's still going like, it's almost like in a weird way, like the Rodgers bounce around pocket stuff, like, but it's just a couple more chop. No,
the balance in his feet though is like, and that's the first fourth down, the first fourth down in the goal line they didn't get. He just like, all I want you to do is put your foot in the ground and throw the ball, buddy. All I want you to do instead of fading away. But then the second touchdown, it's exactly what he did. And he throws a dime for a touchdown. So it's like, you got to kind of take the good with the bad.
The great ones, you kind of just go, okay. Like you can't really round up the great ones. It's like herding cats. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, that works. Good job, bud. That's the thing with him though, is that even there's so many, his arm strength is ridiculous. Like him,
it's insane.
You watch Lamar throw a deep dig. We talked about the Dolphins game. It's like it's Stafford-esque, like how much he can rip like a deep dig. It's just that so funky how he gets to it that it just doesn't look that way. But then if you see that ball just whip out of his hand and just on a line get to these like 20-yard throws, that's the thing with Lamar. He's just such a unique player. I mean, truly one of a kind and how he does everything, but he is trying to attack from the pocket. And there's times I could tell he's just like, I hate this. Like, he's like, I'm going to bounce around because I just do not like what's happening. But when you see them play confidently and him just going like, okay, that's it. I know exactly where I'm going with this, which is ironic because his two best pass catchers were out, and Bateman and Andrews. It's almost ironic that he became more simple in a good way with his best pass catchers out. And maybe it's because of just play calling or whatever. But I'm just glad to see that second half Ravens, especially the offense, because that run game was just, it felt right. Like it felt like, oh yeah, this is what you guys can do in the run game. It's handing out jet sweeps side to side, but then Gus Bus is going up the middle for 15 yards, or even just all the wrinkles off of that. So
every early down throw is an RPO or a play action or a movement throw. Every single one. And it's like,
not a static drop back.
This hard. It doesn't have to be this hard. Maybe it's a little bit. Spamming those easy buttons over and over and over again until they can prove they can stop it is not a bad thing to continue to do.
Stop it. It's like, yes, I talked about Jalen Hurts against this Bucs defense last year in playoffs. That's because they stopped it. But if they can't stop it, hit the easy button. That's why it's the easy button.
That throw that Lamar hits to Likely, the third and final we just pointed out. Jalen Hurts last year can't do that stuff.
Nope.
So that's the difference, is that it's not gimmicky. If he has to do it on third down, he can do it. But you might as well make yourself terrifying on early downs. You might, if with the way that you're playing in that second half stretch, other teams are watching it. It's like, shit, I just don't want to see that. I want to see them line up in a static formation and try to throw the ball on 2nd and 8. That's what I want to see.
Yes.
And I'm not saying run the ball on 2nd and 8, but have an RPO attached to whatever you're doing. Like give yourself options and make yourself hard to defend, especially with the personnel that you have.
Yes.
Because you don't have pass catchers that are going to win in traditional ways. So be untraditional.
You're an offense that makes the defense win coin flips. That's what you are. Hey, make them guess right every single time, because and then make them wrong every single time. They try to guess right like that, but that's what RPOs are. That's what play action is. That's what screens are, is that you're trying to get them. Oh, I got it. I'm going to tee off on X play. And then you actually hit them with Y. That's what that fake speed option. I keep saying speed option, lead option into a sprint out was. It's the defense can't tee off on that because they go, oh yes, here I come up. And then it's a controller. That's why you throw changeups, because they can't lean on the fastball. They can't hang out and move on and hit the fastball. That's why you have these changeups. And that's what the Ravens offense is. It's an offense of changeups. And I think that's what they just have to lean on, rather than just going like, we're going to line up and have Lamar drop back, or we're in a 5-step concept and we're going to have all these guys doing it. It's like, no, that's not what you are. You are an offensive changeups.
I wanted to point out one more Ravens play because I think it leads us into a conversation about the Bucs. Tyler Linderbaum had some awesome moments in the run game today. And when he's getting drafted in the first round, there's a reason. I want you to talk about this. His movement skills are incredible. And you saw that with him playing in space a couple times in this game.
It's awesome. This zone play is so cool, because that not only as a puller, but this is where you guys see actually just across the board. It's a really good job by the Ravens, but just watching Linderbaum on this is just, He's blocking Devin White.
It's a great block by Zeitler too.
Yes, exactly. And you can see him get depth, like just a lot of good details here. See, like that is awesome. Like zone plays are so cool to watch when they were actually really run well. That's why we go so gaga about Shanahan offenses. Like Zeitler here is getting depth. He's changing his angle.
Zeitler's number 70, by the way, is the right guard.
He's the right guard. I'm sorry. Yes. And he's hooking the defensive tackle here. And then Linderbaum, though, Devin White's creeped up to about 3 yards on this zone play, and he's getting to him. Like he is getting outside. Devin White runs a legit 4.4 and change at linebacker. That's why he went top 10. He is vastly overrated. I'm sorry just to be so blunt about it. He is a very unique player. He's a unique role player. And
he's a great blitzer. He has a lot of speed and juice.
Yes. And why, if you watch last year, the best Zach Wilson game of his career was against the Bucs last year. Levante David was out in that game. And watching Devin White in that game, he had no idea what to do. He had no idea. He's just running every which way. He has a lot of speed. He's a great athlete. He is not a great football player in a weird way. I'm trying not to knock. It's a weird
He's
disconnect.
Not comfortable in space. It is a very useful conversation about
shoot.
Yes. And that there are linebackers when if you're going to deploy them that way, they have a lot of value. When they're running 5-man pressures every single time they come out there, and that's how you're using him, where he's moving toward the line of scrimmage in every defined passing situation, he has a lot of value. If you're asking him to play in space, there's just his head's going to be spinning around in circles. And that's how he's been for most of his career.
Yep. And the Super Bowl Bucs here was in that playoff run. They learned to unlock him. They went 2-man a bunch of times. We've talked about this before. But what he was able to do was he would hug rush. And what that means is that he's lined up on the line of scrimmage, acting like he's pressuring. So the running back would have to stay in. So what he would do then is add on or green dog, which is just run as fast as you can at the quarterback. And when you run a 4.4, that is very hard for a running back to go, oh shit, I got to block this guy when this guy in 5 yards is blitzing the quarterback. So they unlocked him that way. But as far as just running every type of scheme, he's 80% of the time, you can tell he's just guessing. And I think that's what happened with how the Ravens got after him in the second half was they made him guess. You could see they showed him a couple times. The Duvernay touchdown was another one that they showed him pre-snap and he's looking around trying to get guys lined up and get himself lined up. And it's an easy side-to-side touchdown because he is taking
the Drake touchdown too.
Yes, because he's taking an extra half second to diagnose the play. And when you have a lot of speed going side to side, it doesn't matter how fast you are. You're already a half second slower. It's the NFL. Game of inches. I know these are all like sayings that people pound into the ground, but it matters because if you're a half second slow, quarter inch slow, boom, you can't get to that edge, especially in the red zone. And that's what happens with Devin White, like far too often. But I do want to compliment there is like Linderbaum as a puller and as those plays right there. Like that's a very athletic play for an offensive lineman. To
not just getting to him, dominating him.
And Devin White is outside of him. He's in the A gap. It's not like he's head up or behind him when he's trying to reach to the second level. Devin White's in front of him, and he managed to get his head across and dominate. That is an outstanding play by Linderbaum. And that also, too, is like knowing your personnel, knowing your matchups. I think in the first half, there's a couple times where just the run game of the Ravens was like, they're like, okay, we're going to run it here. We're going to go in between the tackles, and Linderbaum's just getting pushed aside. No, it's horizontal. He's the guy that gets horizontal, which is fine when you have the speed. So I think the second half was an understanding of personnel from the Ravens. And then also I just wanted to talk about that with the Bucs and where you might see some weaknesses happen sometimes.
So I think that this conversation about Devin White brings us to a larger conversation about how we view the Bucs and what the Bucs really are. Like, who are these guys in the Bucs that we're talking about and how much just
I'm taking back all my
benefit of the doubt that we give them. And so when you watch the Bucs offense right now, there's one play I wanted to get to in particular, but what do you think are the main deficiencies after watching this game and kind of getting them in an island game? And I was watching all 22 feet and just like watching some of the ways the pass plays were unfolding. What do you think is the issue right now? Because they had a couple of touchdown drives, but there was 2 dropped interceptions in the end zone. With the second touchdown drive they had required a kind of weak 40-yard pass interference penalty. They did not run the ball again today. They did not move the ball consistently.
No.
So where are you with this team?
It's an offense built on receiver screens and Tom Brady yelling at somebody. Like that's what this offense really seems like. And Brady's missing some throws that he used to just nail. Like, I mean, the opening touchdown to Evans, like he just lobbed up there for some reason where they got the holding penalty. But also, like, there's a lot of times, especially with Evans, that they seem like they're having a miscommunication. There was
So I want to pull this up.
Okay.
I want to pull this up because this is a perfect way to start talking about this. So this is a third down play from the first half. Okay. So Evans is in the slot. Ravens are running cover 3. Godwin's on the outside. He runs off the corner. Okay. So Evans is working from the number 2 spot on like kind of a deep, it looks like a little bit of a sail concept, right?
Yep.
So there's space between the post safety and the corner. And Brady is expecting him to sit down here. Yep. And he throws it way behind him, and Evans doesn't sit down. Whether it's because he's supposed to and he didn't, or Brady is misreading this, I don't know. But there are plenty of these moments over the course of the game. Think about that dropped interception that Marcus Peters had. Brady expects Evans to beat him across his face, and he's screaming at Evans after that play. And then on the sideline, right before they cut to commercial, you can hear him saying, Mike. So there's just something where there is a disconnect between those two guys and maybe between Brady and just other players on the offense, because you can feel that coming up over and over and over again.
And yes, and I don't know if the Peters one you're talking about, was that in the end zone or was that
in the end zone? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes. That's the one I'm thinking of vividly because that one was weird. And Evans went my bad on it, but that's weird. It's like, are you running a read route and the freaking end zone right there? Like it just, something seems off. Like and it happens several times a game. We saw this when they played the Packers, when they played Carolina. There's throws, especially to Evans, where they just seem like something's off. Like, and I don't know this offense to be as read heavy. Like it's a vertical offense, but I don't know it to be as one where it's like, oh, I'm running a corner or a dig here on a deep route. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's not, I don't know why the consternation's coming. I can understand that with the offensive line and figure out the points, yada, yada, yada. But being with the receivers, I don't understand that. And that exact sail route is what you and I talked about when we were gushing over the Chiefs-Bills game. And we're talking about hitting those sail routes and back shouldering them.
The stops,
we're talking about, yes, that's the throw you have to make now. And those are the ones you have to complete now because that's the throw now. The corners have gotten so smart and down or dropping back in that. Because
the flat defender is just getting so much depth there.
So much depth.
He's I'm just going to let you complete it in the flat if you want to.
Fine.
I'm not going to let you hit this whole shot. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go hit Leonard Fournette's belly. Like that's what we're going to do, right? Sorry. But also, and we talked about this last week too, is that we feel like defenses are dialing in on this Bucs offense. And that's why I wanted to bring up that Godwin example with the Ravens, compliment the Ravens doing this. But it was the same thing, was that it seems like when they throw hot, because that's a big part of this offense, is they throw hot, is that defenses go, okay, throw hot. We're going to smoke the guy that you're throwing hot to. We understand that you only throw hot to the slot guy. So I just feel like that there's a lot of like, they're tipping off their pitches, and this is a very, I've always said this Arians left-edge offense is very at you. You know what we're running, stop it. And now defenses are going like, okay, like we're going to stop it. So what do you got? And now they're getting into a lot of third and longs. The run game is kind of, they keep toweling up Leonard Fournette out there. They
2.7 a crack again today.
Dude, he had a blitz pickup where it was early. It was the first quarter. And Ravens actually had a beautiful blitz on it. They got 2 guys free on it. And Leonard Fournette, I know he has one of the guys. Like he has one of those guys that's blitzing. He like chips him. Like he doesn't even try to like fit him up and block him. He just chips and just runs by. It was like, what are you doing? That's not pass protection. That's a chip help on a blitzer. And so that's what this offense seems. So yeah, Mike Evans seems like he's misreading stuff because I'm guessing because he said, my bad. You have a backup center in there. You have Tom Brady that looks just pissed off, who's not hitting every throw. You have Chris Godwin doing everything he can. Chris Godwin is Mr. Teammate. I could tell he's trying to do everything he can. You have Leonard Fournette chip helping him when he's blitz helping. It's a lot of just.
And you have questions about the interior of the offensive line. And I think Donovan Smith has had moments this year where he hasn't played particularly well,
especially when he's come back. Yeah, the last week he looked rough. So it's a big combination of everybody kind of fucking up. Like that's what it is. That's usually when bad offenses, bad defenses. That's kind of what happens. That's what this feels like.
So there are 2, I think, main differences outside of the interior offensive line personnel. And I think with Brady, like Brady's pointing out protections. Brady's calling out who the mic is. Brady's setting that stuff. So losing a veteran center sucks, but it's a little bit easier when you have a guy who's seen literally everything you could possibly see on an NFL field. Okay.
Yep.
So I think that's important. The
Yep.
two main differences to me, one, Todd Bowles is not the head coach of this team. The way that they operate, even if he's been there already, that is a change. When your head coach changes and you have now an offensive coordinator that even if he was overseeing most of it when Arians was still there, you still had a guy who it was his offense. It was Bruce Arians' offense. Yep. So you have removing Arians from the equation as the head coach and just one more voice in the room offensively. Is that having an impact? And you have a quarterback who is at least a little bit checked out and 1 foot out the door in a way that he wasn't last year. Yep. And I'm not trying to psychoanalyze Tom Brady, but he retired. He came back. He took a 2-week trip at the beginning of training camp. He's taken some days off. And that's fine.
You have to acknowledge
I understand why that's happening at this stage of his career, but that's happening right now. You have a quarterback who is not that maniacal, locked-in dude that he was for most of his career. And I have to assume that's having some impact on what they look like with the details of this stuff.
Yep. There was a clip they showed him on the sideline, and you got Leftwich and Gabbert next to him. And then he looks at both of them kind of like, what the fuck? And then he goes up to the center, Lindsley, right? Or no, what's the center's name? Hainsey. You could see him saying, Hainsey. And he says something to Hainsey and he just goes, yeah, okay. And he just kind of like waves him off, like kind of like, but it's like, where's the fire? Like, it wasn't like a very like, he was just kind of like, yeah. He went up to him. He was like, yeah, kind of never mind. Like, but they showed it all. They panned as he's doing it. And it was like, oh man, like this is different. It's just different. And they showed him at one point, he has the camo hat on and he had his head down and they cut away from it really quick. But it was like, man, it's just different. And like you said, I don't want to psychoanalyze, but you have to acknowledge it. Like this is just a different temperature for Brady.
It is a fact. The way that he approached this and what his just general time and emotional investment has looked like over the last 9 months has looked different than it probably did in years past. That's all. We don't have to say anything more than that. It has looked different, and is it having some sort of impact on the details of what the offense looks like?
And I think without a doubt it is. I mean, that's all you have to say.
So I wanted to pull up one more play here because just talking about maybe why the Bucs had some struggles on offense, I do want to give some credit to the Ravens defense because Mike McDonald on early downs, a lot of normal stuff, cover 4, cover 6, a lot of zone heavy, light boxes. It's the meta.
I love Prime Vision, by the way. I love Prime Vision.
It's seriously the best. It is seriously the best.
It's the best.
So you can watch the game in real time, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So, but on this play, it's 3rd and 14, and they're just doing crazy shit, right? So he's bringing 2 blitzers, including one of the safeties.
This is the Fournette chip help. I
thought you might have been talking about this play.
Yes.
So this is awesome. You're bringing 5, but it's a non-traditional 5. Yeah. And you're playing like a very real version of cover 3 behind it. Like this did not get home immediately, but it ends up becoming a coverage sack on a wild fire zone where you're bringing 2 guys off the right edge. And so that is very cool. Like when you can have such sound zone coverage on the back when you're running a crazy pressure like this, that is a really nice play to unfold. And I do think like, are they finding themselves a little bit where they're doing some of this stuff and they're figuring out what works and what doesn't, and what can they look like with a little bit more time on task with this group and this staff, and plays like that, or it's like, ooh, that's cool. I like that. I want some more of this.
That's a Rex Ryan pressure. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome to see like that, like that. Cause like you say, it's an overload, but it's safe. Like it has all the illusion of like, holy shit, they're bringing the house here. Look at all these guys. I'm glad actually we got to talk about it because that's the Leonard Fournette Olay play, because they got 2 free runners on that play.
Yes.
2 guys coming. Wirfs, you could tell or not Wirfs. Who's the left tackle? Smith gets out there and he goes, because he's got 3 guys coming at him. He's like, I got to pick one, and he picks the DB, which I thought was hilarious. He goes,
business decision.
This is easy. I'm going to get you. And then Fournette Olay's the guy. But then Brady was trying to like, he in his own way, trying to like shift in the pocket and find a throw. But it became a coverage sack. So it's a great breakdown. But that's an old school. That's a Rex Ryan blitz. It's that overload that turns into a safe coverage on the backside. So no, but that's what's cool, because that Dolphins game, for the Ravens. And a couple other games, they're just every time they blitz, it felt like they botched it. It was like, why are you like
A lot of just
someone's
miscommunications and busts. And there's
yes,
nothing you could do about that.
nothing.
Like that stuff
That's
just
one
happens.
guy messing up. Yeah, it
Yeah.
happens, and that's why pressuring could be that gash or be gash because they have to sort out the number count. That's what match coverages now and simulated coverages. That's what they're doing. They're sorting out number count 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, all that, and now that's what pressures are. Hey, this is 3, this is 2, this is 1, this is first to the flat. Same thing, but that's also when there's motion, when there's funky offensive looks, that can cause consternation for the defense. So it's good to see them. They're improving. They went from, oh, we busted 2 of these and let up 2 touchdowns to getting a coverage sack on it. That means they're actually sorting it out in the correct way. So no, absolute credit to them for finding kind of some chemistry or the balance of what they want to call on defense.
And really nice that they're doing it before they have this kind of 3-week break that's coming. Before the bye and before they're going to have a lot of time to evaluate, like in real time and the normal rhythms of the season and practice. I think they've really figured some stuff out. I think Owe is like a really good dropper. Like for a guy who was a first-round pass rusher, he had a tipped ball that led to a pick against the Bills. Like his ability to kind of figure stuff out in space for somebody who is nominally a first-round pass rusher, I actually think is pretty impressive. And it's why I don't mind them doing it. Yeah.
He's just getting better as a football player. Like he's one of those guys. You're just like, he just needs reps. He just needs like plays. Like, and that's
how many years did he play in college?
Barely any. And he was just, he had like 1.5 sacks, I think his senior year or his last year at Penn State. And that's the thing. It's like, he's a guy. It's like, you never could be out on him. It's just like, you just got to take the lumps because he's going to figure it out. It's just like, oh, there's going to be some bad plays, but it's cool to see, like you said, before bye week, before any of this, that he's doing those things in coverage where in the first couple of weeks his head was popping. Every time he had a drop in coverage, he's like, oh God, I think that 2 or 3, I got to get this guy. Oh God, he's running up the seam. Like now it's actually cool to see him like making plays on the ball. He had a nice sack too. Like it's cool. Like he's actually figuring this stuff out.
So a couple things to wrap up before we're done here. Shaq Barrett sounds like he has an Achilles injury. MRI is coming this weekend. And it's part of the problem here is that this team isn't super deep at some of these positions. I mean, because of the ways they've had to spend and kind of how far their money has had to go as they've tried to keep this core together. If he's out for any period of time, then we're starting to pull out some Jenga blocks from the defense here.
Yeah, that's devastating for them. I mean, he is still a good player. I mean, they have a couple of interesting young guys like Tryon had a nice play tonight.
But that's it now. It's Tryon's not a luxury anymore. You got him and
he's not your third rusher anymore. Yeah, exactly. So you
got a guy dressed as a long snapper, but is your third defensive end right now. I can't remember what his name is, like O'Callahan or whoever it is. I'm sorry about that, but that's where we're at with the Bucs.
I love how that's just the blanket term is he's dressed like a long snapper. And it's like, oh, okay, got it. That's all I need.
His name is Patrick O'Connor, and he wears number 79. Is anything I said wrong?
No. Where did he go to school? Patrick O'Connor.
Patrick O'Connor, and he's number 99. So I feel pretty okay about everything that I just said.
He's from Chicago.
So, again, nice, great, good for him. Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan is just pumping out NFL offense or defensive linemen. That's where Max Crosby went, right?
Right? Yeah, they just had this one. Get these guys. Yeah.
How good was Eastern Michigan's defensive line in like 2017? Oh my God.
You went to St. Rita? Where I don't know.
I know St. Rita is. That's where St. Rita is also where Mike Kafka went, I believe. So there you go. No, there it is.
I like
pulled
that.
it all together here. So
I like that.
I think kind of bringing it back around to where we were at the beginning of the show. I feel pretty good about what the Ravens did tonight. I feel pretty good about this version of the Ravens. Like, okay, this is what I want to see. Again, against a team with more playable corner. The problem, I know the Bucs had all their corners out. The way the Ravens offense beat the Bucs today had nothing to do with cornerback play
at all.
It's not like they're beating them up outside the numbers.
There was only one play where I was like, oh, the Bucs corners. It was the screen they had a screen in the red zone, like a receiver screen to it might not have been likely to somebody in the red zone. That was the only time I was like, oh, the Bucs cornerback depth is really hurting them there because 2 guys missed a tackle, and not only did they miss a tackle, they took the worst tackle angles I've ever seen in my life. So it's like that was the one time I was like, oh, that's what's really hurting them there. But no, the rest was just the Ravens understanding what they are. That's really the
Yes.
summary of it. It's
So
understanding what you are.
let's hold on to that. Let's hold on to
Yes.
that for dear life. I thought Likely was
Please.
really good. I'm excited to see more of him when Andrews comes back. What are the pass catching options going to look like? And I leave this game still pretty worried about the Bucs. Luckily for Tampa Bay, their division is hot garbage. There is probably a good chance that even with
Falcons
all
are
of
the
these things
leaders.
we're talking about, they win the NFC South. But
Yep.
I don't know with all this stuff that's going on. You'd hope that because some of it at least looks mental and timing based, that it can get ironed out. I don't think Brady's arm looks shot or he physically looks like he's deteriorating at all. So you would hope that there are some things that you can solve with a little bit more, I don't know, focus, time, just kind of getting everything ironed out. And if they can, what can they look like in the back half? But right now, they just look like they are completely not operating on the same page.
That's the difference is Brady's arm's not shot. He's not ripping throws. He can do it. He won't do it. Like that's the difference with it. But how about the NFC South? NFC South? Every team has a negative point differential. And the Falcons are your leaders in the NFC South currently with a negative 8-point differential. That's the season. That is a perfect snapshot of the 2022 NFL season where we're at and going into week 8.
All right. That's all we got. That was fun. We're going to try to do that more often, obviously, on these Thursday shows. These are YouTube only. So there was really no worries about the podcast audience, not being able to see some of the visuals that we're talking about. So we'd like to keep incorporating those. We'd love your feedback. Send us an email. What kind of stuff would you guys like to see? Are you enjoying that? We're trying stuff this year. So we really appreciate you guys doing this with us in real time and kind of being along for the ride because we're having a good time doing it. So
yeah, we're trying to be the second half Ravens.
Like that's right. That's right. We're trying to settle into what we do. All these plays and these breakdowns, these are our RPOs and quarterback run games. So that's all we got for tonight. If you guys have not, please go check out the Week 8 preview. Had a long conversation about the Giants and their timeline and kind of where they're at right now. Chatted about the Rams and the Niners a little bit. Broke down a bunch of different stuff. So please go listen to that if you have not. We will be back on Sunday nights for our Week 8 recap show. Until then, enjoy your guys' weekend. We'll talk to you later.